everybody, what's going on? This is Gold Diamond Astro T Magic. This is the moon message, and here are 10 major themes that are going to be coming up during not only this new moon, but lunar eclipse. This is a really intense eclipse, so the first thing I want to say about eclipses are they're intensifiers of the moon, obviously. With the lunar eclipse in particular, what we're dealing with here is we're dealing with not only a moon that cannot be seen, but it's almost a moon that is kind of boiling beneath the surface, where the sun is more an expressive moon. It's more of a lucid dreaming kind of moon, like where the sun represents consciousness and the moon represents, the subconscious, and it kind of represents the subconscious kind of waking up and becoming conscious in a way. But the lunar eclipse is, the new moon is, not only unseen, but there's this added aspect to it. So it feels like the subconscious is kind of bubbling up to the surface. It's not becoming completely awake, but it is bubbling. And it's a new moon, so it's the beginning of a new cycle. So whereas the full moon is the realization and the culmination of the 2-week period that is the lunar cycle. So the theme here is I want to first connect the solar eclipse to the lunar eclipse. So the solar eclipse happened first, and eclipses happen in pairs. So the solar eclipse happened in Leo, which is fitting, and the lunar eclipse is happening in Pisces, which is also fitting, because Pisces is a higher aspect of Cancer, which rules the moon. So the themes are self-love and unconsciousness or transcendence. So Pisces rules unconsciousness or transcendence. Leo rules one of the theme of self-love. So basically through this eclipse cycle, which is going to reverberate on for the next several months, we are looking at basically our individuality kind of floating in the void, and floating in the void of we can float in the void of transcendence or unconsciousness. Now, the only reason why I say unconsciousness and not transcendence, because Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. The only thing that Pisces needs to do is either unconditional infinite love or fear. So fear is what takes you into unconsciousness, and unconditional love takes you into transcendence. But the reason why I'm saying unconsciousness, and I didn't put transcendence in the title card, is because you have the South Node. We have several planets in Pisces right now, and the South Node is pretty much pulling on all that and saying the South Node is devolution, and the North Node is obviously in Virgo. So what we have here is we have we have your own worth versus others' worth, and it's going to be really challenging. It puts a really challenging it adds a challenging texture to all the planets that are in Pisces. And so what all this reveals is number one, the theme was of self-love and unconsciousness between the two eclipses. The second theme is that of immaturity. So basically this is, again, kind of, even though it's a theme throughout all the aspects during this lunar eclipse, a lot of it's going to be focused in the personal planets, especially between the signs of Pisces and Virgo, because there are so many planets in Pisces right now, and with the South Node pretty much tugging on everything. We have this, we don't want to evolve. We don't want to do the evolutionary thing. We want to do what's easy. We want to just play in our feelings. We want to just play in, we just want to play in emotion. We just want to play in the psychic realms. We want to play in our heads. And this is definitely a huge, this is something that contributes a lot to our immaturity, instead of using the Virgo and learning and expanding our knowledge through expanding our knowledge and being more rigorous and empirical and more realistic. We're kind of going off into fantasy land. We want to go off into fantasy land. And that leads into my third point, where there's the temptation of unconsciousness. So even though immaturity, again, the second point rules different aspects of, this lunar eclipse, meaning like there's a theme of relationships that I'll be getting into later. Third, because of this Pisces-Virgo dynamic, there's a strong temptation of unconsciousness. And because we're so in our emotions, and it feels so good to be in our emotions, and it feels so good to be connected to other people and not use our logical mind, we kind of cut off, we kind of want to just not only just be in our emotions, but to literally just kind of be unconscious. And there's a temptation to go back into our old addictions as well. This is what the temptation of unconsciousness is. And that doesn't necessarily, Pisces, Neptune rules, addiction. But it's not only to, drugs, it's to, our old belief systems that do not serve us. Pisces rules belief. It rules religious belief. And we have a religious belief in our old systems. And one thing that comes up, not only the South Node, is Chiron. Chiron is the wounded healer, but it's a wounded healer in many ways that could be interpreted as the healer. The wounded healer has to keep healing its own wound. And the theme of the Piscean theme coming up of addiction to old social norms, meaning is regarding the collective dream, which is what Neptune rules, the collective dream, meaning the consensus. Life is a dream. So whatever the consensus is in human life, that's Neptune ruled in a way. Things that are kind of or unconsciously accepted without question, that's Neptune ruled, Pisces ruled. So there's this temptation to kind of fall into what was before. And there's also this self-absorption. It's like, even though Pisces is very much about how everything is interconnected, it strangely this time is very much about you and what's going on with you and what you value and what you want and what you like and what you need, which is ironic because, the opposite side, North Node, Virgo, is focused on others, and Virgo is always focused on others, Pisces is always focused on others, but Pisces is very self-absorbed this lunar eclipse. And Virgo is always, even though it's always focused on others, this time it's focused on value of others. So even though there's a temptation of being unconscious in this way, the fourth point is that comfortability, usually Pisces is kind of like like a stream that's just going downhill. That's how I see it. Nothing's really obstructing it. It's just going downhill. Everything's comfortable, but that comfortability is going to be interrupted because of its aspects with Lilith. And Lilith is squaring Lilith, and Lilith represents our dark side. So, Lilith is in the first degree of Sagittarius. As you remember, Lilith was in the last degree of Scorpio, or the last few degrees of Scorpio in the solar eclipse. Now it's in the first degree of Sag. This lunar eclipse, and so now everything, like if Scorpio's like basically like holding everything in, repressing everything, Sagittarius is the huge explosion, the huge orgasm of everything that you deny about yourself is that basically coming to the surface. So Lilith is kind of like, I see kind of like a focused Pluto energy, like a much more focused, much more specific Plutonian type of energy. Pluto is more of a larger energy, more exposing collective things, whereas Lilith is exposing more specific things in the psyche. So we have Lilith is like Pisces is just going to be a chugging along, and then Lilith is going to come with Sagittarius, all this explosion, this huge expansion, this huge orgasm of all these dark, unaccepted, taboo things that are going to come up within yourself, and not just within yourself, but within society. And and all these things are going to be exposed. And Lilith has to do with a lot with the dark side of sexuality. So in many ways, on the collective level, what we're seeing more and more and more is we're seeing more sexual scandals with as far as sex trafficking and even, dare I say it, pedophilia, which is really crazy. And these things are just coming to the surface, and we can't help it. And many of us kind of want to shut that off, and we want to just kind of go into la-la land, which is Pisces. We want to go into la-la land and just pretend that everything is great and okay, or, you know, kind of fight for an imaginary cause that we may have, and not really focused on reality. So that's the interrupted uncomfortability. So your dark nature is going to come up within yourself, and it's going to come up in the collective of society. The thing about squares is that it's different from an opposition, where squares is a struggle. It's a struggle where neither energy dominates. It's a struggle where you have to adapt some of where let's say the moon and Lilith has to, you know, learn to absorb and adopt some of the things that Lilith is telling it, and Lilith has to learn to adopt some of the things that the moon is telling it, and when it comes to certain squares. But because there's a south node there, it's slightly different in that I think Lilith needs to be paid attention to more than the moon in this case, because the moon has the south node with it, so the moon can't really be trusted. I would say you can roll with the moon, you know, you can roll with all the planets in Pisces, even Neptune in Pisces, but you want to be very, very careful that, you know, you aren't just denying what's in front of your face, what's empirically in front of your face. You don't want to deny you don't want to deny reality. You don't want to step outside of reality and say, oh well, everything could be like this and everything could be like that, when that's just not the case. So the fifth, so basically that comfortability of Pisces, everything's great, everything's grand. Lilith is going to come up and bite you in the ass. The fifth point is you focusing on yourself may equal survival. Focusing on others equals thrival. Now, this is more of the Uranus, Mars, Jupiter dynamic. So you have Uranus and Mars in the third house, which is about, you know, third house is about collecting information in your immediate environment. And with Uranus, it's like you basically are either collecting unique information. With it being in Aries, it's about you, it's all about you, it's self-focused. Mars is in Aries in its home sign, it's all about you. Third house is about connecting with people in unique ways, also just connecting with people for your own, like Aries, Mars is about survival. Pluto is about survival as well, but Mars in Aries is very much about self-preservation. And with Uranus being in Aries, it's about getting unique pieces of information in order to help your own self survive, and using your own unique expression to gain information from your immediate environment. There's more of an emphasis on that because Jupiter's kind of like lower energy because it's retrograde right now. But you want to still keep Jupiter in mind, Jupiter with being in Libra in the ninth. Basically still connecting with other people still gives you the ability to thrive. So because Jupiter is there and it's about expansion, Gemini is there, it's just about getting the vital piece of information you need just to, you know, get through the day or get whatever. But Jupiter being in the ninth house is about expanding your knowledge base, expanding your belief system, expanding, certain things, expanding expanding your fortune through relationships. So that kind of evolves into the sixth point, which is about relationship misunderstandings and philosophy. So because Venus and Pluto are kind of, going at it, and Venus is, we got Venus in Aries, I believe, and we have Pluto in Capricorn. and it's basically Pluto being in the first house. Definitely. Also, that goes back to the fifth point about self being survival. Pluto's survival. Pluto's in the first house. First house is the house of the self. But relationship misunderstandings and philosophy has a lot to do with Pluto and Venus, and the way that you see yourself versus what you value, and those two things are kind of at odds. And what we have here, and also Jupiter is square Pluto as well. So we have some misunderstandings in relationships because Venus is in a retrograde shadow. So there may not be the way that you connect with your lover, or the way that you connect with your friends, or whatever makes you feel comfortable. You may not be able to connect to it in the same way. You're bringing up this Pluto energy. Your ability to manifest is kind of thwarted because Pluto and Venus are kind of opposite energies. You have Taurus and Scorpio, and so you're coming with this intense energy, and a lot of intense, dark bullshit is coming up within you, and it's kind of changing your self view, and that intensity is being kind of thrown into your relationships, and it's being misinterpreted. Not only because there's a square, but because Venus is about to go retrograde in a few weeks. So there may be a lot of volatile misunderstandings. Also, because Jupiter's in the ninth and is square Pluto, there's this huge upheaval between, understanding, exactly what your role is in relationships. Similar theme to last eclipse, but it's basically the transformation of your philosophy of relationships. And the reason why you're having so many misunderstandings is because you have a particular philosophy that continues to propagate itself and replicate itself in every single relationship. So you're definitely, and because Jupiter's retrograde, you're doing a review. And what do we have? We had some planet in the 12th. We had a planet in the 12th house. No, we're not going to that yet. That's a later point. So basically, we're learning that whatever's creating are, because there's such a direct relationship between Venus, Pluto, and Jupiter, we're learning that our philosophy is what creates the particular dynamic of our belief system, creates the dynamic of our relationships. So right now there's maybe a lot of tension in your relationships with your significant other or with your social sphere. The seventh point is the way that you kind of remedy this is you have to learn how to uplift others through your service. Service meaning, because we have North Node and Virgo in the third house, you could just simply be through your words. It's simply through the way that you communicate with other people and the information that you share with other people, the lighthearted, mundane level of communication that you share with other people is something that you can use to uplift others. It's not this huge, deep, revolutionary thing. There's no Uranian energy, there's no Pluto energy, there's no Saturn energy. It's just pure third house kind of mercurial, because Virgo is ruled by Mercury, but this basic mercurial energy, this basic thing that you can do to interact with others that will help to uplift them. And uplifting them, obviously, the 8th house kind of rules like the value of the 11th house rules the actual people in your network. I would say that the 8th house rules the resources in your network, but the resources in other people. So you basically acknowledging the value of other people and noticing the details in other people, what makes them valuable, is going to be a huge boon to you. So it's basically doing it for others helps you, and that kind of goes back to my point, the fifth point of self is survival, but others is thrival. When you uplift others, you basically are doing a huge service to yourself, and but that's not what you're looking for. You're looking for Virgo is completely selfless service, and you're acknowledging the value in other people. And with the third house, it could simply mean you simply say the value that you see in other people, or you could Gemini also rules like body movement and agility. You can use your body, through dance. Virgo rules the physical. It's also a mutable sign like Gemini. So using, body language, basically all the methods of basic fundamental communication that you can use to acknowledge other people's value will be a great boon to them, to other people, and ultimately to yourself. The eighth point is creating your reality, adapting to the established reality, and bridging the two. So creating your reality that's basically Uranus and Aries. And Uranus is about breaking through convention, but it's trine Saturn, which is in Sagittarius. So Uranus and Saturn don't usually get along, but they rule the same sign, Aquarius, but they're different aspects or different states of maturity of the same. They're different states of maturity. So you have Saturn, which is by the book, and we have Uranus, which is like throw out the book, burn the book, do whatever you need to do with the book, just get rid of it, destroy the book. Now, and we have these two things together. So basically, with Uranus shredding the book and Saturn saying be by the book, we're basically about not only shredding the book, but creating a new book, writing a new book. And writing a new book is definitely fitting here because Uranus is in the third house. And we have Saturn in the 12th house, which we'll talk about later. So we're adapting to this new reality that's coming into the fore. And we don't know what's coming in. We have no idea. But we do know that we're breaking through convention. And this new reality is coming in. And bridging between the two has a lot to do with, let's see here, looking through my notes here. Trying to find exactly that point. So, bridging the two, I would probably say it would have to do with Jupiter, but I can't find exactly where I wrote down the bridging of the two. So Saturn trine Uranus is the grounded uniqueness of self-expression. You're learning more about what makes you a trendsetter and using that information to position yourself, to expand on that expression, positioning yourself as Saturn. And Saturn is keeping up with Uranus. Uranus is quick. Uranus in the third house means you're thinking really, 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 really quickly. And with Aries, it's like you're having new ideas every second. But Saturn is able to keep up with you in many ways, and which is really, really unique. And that is you're expanding, you're positioning yourself to expand on that expression, meaning connecting with others. You may fear that you may fear your inner power that you discover. Aries rules power, Uranus rules the power. Saturn is kind of like quiet power. You may fear that power. You may fear failing. You can break through your old belief systems and create new belief systems. And so because of this dynamic between breaking through the old to create the new, these two realities are actually coexisting at the same time. Now, if you've heard of this, there's a man who channels, and regardless of whether it's actually a channel being or not, this gentleman is named Daryl Anka. He channels a being named Mashar. Regardless of whether there's an actual channeling, the information is highly valuable. And basically, what this being Bashar says, or Daryl Anka says, is that when you are in paradox, you are at the most powerful point of manifestation. So breaking through convention, creating new convention for yourself, and Uranus is always creating new convention. Sagittarius is always expanding. So if Saturn is always becoming new, Uranus is always becoming new. So you're basically in the moment of creation. You're always keeping up with your own creation, and that's a really, really powerful place to be. Bridging the two is extremely important, and the only way you can really bridge the two is with Uranus energy, or Aries energy, and Sagittarius energy. It's about being in the moment. Fire is about burning in the moment. Uranus is about every moment is changing. Uranus is about an experience and the genius of your spirit being able to pick up everything in that experience, not through the intellect, but just through pure receptivity to what's going on. So the ninth point is breaking the rules exposes shortcomings in yourself and in the system. So breaking rules obviously goes back to Uranus. Exposes shortcomings. So exposing with Pluto, shortcoming, Capricorn. So we have the third house versus the first house. So we have the way that we're processing information versus our self-image. So with Pluto being in Capricorn, there's a huge identification with the system and with the way things are being done, and with our own inner system, with our own inner compulsions, beliefs, but also with the system that we experience on the outside, the law, the system of law. And there's a huge identification with that, but that's being broken up at this point. This lunar eclipse is breaking that up. And so every time that you create your own reality, you see something about yourself that you need to integrate. And because Uranus is, again, in the third house, it's like you're thinking faster than the speed of light. And so, but Pluto is not moving as fast. Pluto is in the first house, so it's like it's about being, it's about who you are. So, but Pluto is also slower than Uranus. So Pluto, in many ways, it's an explosion, but it's like, whereas Uranus is like a pivot of the foot, Pluto is more like the ground exploding underneath you. You're blown into the air, you fall back down to the ground, and then you got to get back up to your feet and then figure out what happened. That's Pluto. So Pluto moves a little bit more slowly, and with it being in Capricorn, it definitely moves more slowly than Uranus. So your mind is moving faster than your emotions, basically. Because Pluto is ruling kind of an emotional reality, and Uranus is ruling your mental reality. And so every time that you create your own reality and you're like, boom, I'm just going to break through this convention, Pluto comes in and says, okay, this is something that the universe is revealing about you, or revealing about the system, that is a distorted reflection of the inner you that you need to integrate. So there's this, and because there's a square, it's like Uranus is like moving. It's like, oh shit, there's Pluto's coming in and revealed something that I have to kind of integrate. So Uranus has to sit there and wait for Pluto to kind of help you digest what you have brought up. And then, but Pluto also has to, you can't wallow in Pluto energy for too long. Uranus has to get back up and moving again, because the universe is moving so fast right now. Manifestation is moving so fast right now. It's like you can't just sit there and wallow in Plutonian energy. The Aries energy, the Uranian energy is going to just pick right back up again, and then all of a sudden Pluto's going to interrupt Uranus again. It's like there's going to be this back and forth energy. Now remember, because of these eclipses, these energies are kind of like imprints, indentations in your own consciousness and in the consciousness of the universe for the next several months to come. So this is going to be a dynamic that you're dealing with regardless of whatever aspects are coming up in the next coming months. So So 8th point was creating, adapting, bridging. 9th point is breaking rules, exposes shortcomings. And you have to do that kind of yin and yang, back and forth. Oh, you think really fast, then wait for Pluto to expose and integrate, and then you can't wait for Pluto to expose and integrate everything. You got to get back up and start moving again, and then Pluto will expose more, and then it'll be back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Now, the final point is also, Pluto represents, corruption, and you're going to see there's certain corruptions within the system, from the smallest to the biggest, that you're going to feel a lot more passionate about, because it's directly affecting you. Corruption in the system is going to start directly affecting you. And so now the Uranian energy is going to come up. You're going to want to write a book. You're going to want to put it out on the internet. It's starting to directly affect you. And not only is it directly affecting you, it's affecting you on a deep, deep level. Not just intellectually, not just physically, but deeply emotionally. And so you're like, fuck this, I need to change some shit around here. And then the Uranian energy comes up again, and the 3rd house means you may write a blog about it. You may put it out on Facebook. You may put it out on your social media. You may connect with other people who are kind of on the same page and create a network or whatever. This is another way to interpret that dynamic. So in the inner system and in the outer system, so corruption is being exposed, and you'll need to break through that corruption. And the last point, the 10th point, is dedicate yourself to a practice of faith. And this comes with the Martian Saturnian dynamic. And Mars and Saturn are getting along. So Mars and Saturn are very tough planets. Mars is passion. Mars is and it kind of rules dedication in a way. Saturn also rules dedication. But Saturn is in the 12th house. It's in Sagittarius in the 12th house. Sagittarius rules faith. 12th house rules faith. Saturn is, I don't know what the hell's coming, but it's just basically, it's almost like 12th house is rolling the dice. And with Saturn being there, it's kind of like, it's almost like a shitty roll of the die. But with Sagittarius being there, it's like, it's not completely shitty. It's kind of like, okay, it's maybe like 70% shitty, but there's this 30% that's really, really good. Work with the 30% that's good. So, but you don't know what's coming out. It's like getting a mostly shitty hand, but whatever's good, you work with it. Saturn is about whatever you get dealt, you deal with it, and you integrate it, and you deal with what is in front of you. So Mars is like that dedication. And Mars is in the 3rd house, so it's basically it's about, Gemini is about conscious, and 12th house is about what's unconscious, what's coming out of nowhere. And this lunar eclipse is about, basically, Mars is what you can consciously understand on the conscious level. It's like you know what's coming at you. You know what foes you need to fight. Saturn is like, you need to have the discipline to be able to deal with what you cannot see coming. And the only way to have the discipline to deal with what you cannot see coming is to have faith. Now, the Bible is just esoteric knowledge compiled together in a book. The Bible says faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Meaning, whatever you believe already exists in a higher reality. It already exists in a higher reality. Before it can manifest here, you have to believe that it can manifest, and that it already is manifest in a higher reality. That's what faith is. Now, 12th, the ultimate form of faith is having faith in the source of all things, in the source of creation. And Saturn is about discipline. Sagittarius is about expansion and also kind of a philosophical and religious faith. So dedicating yourself to a practice of faith in the source of all things, or in faith in the unseen, faith in with Sagittarius being there, meaning the unseen has good intentions for you. The unseen has good intentions for you. Doing that is really kind of the anchor for this lunar eclipse, this Mars-Saturn dynamic. is even though the lunar eclipse is very watery and we have a bunch of planets in water signs, it's really the inner fire that's going to be the anchor for how we can remain sane through this lunar eclipse that's coming in a few days, and or that's already here, depending on when you're watching this video. So it's extremely important that we dedicate ourselves to a practice. I mean, Saturn is something that you repeat over and 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 over with religious fervor, with religious discipline. It's not something that you do sometimes and then you quit. That's kind of Sagittarius. Sagittarius kind of does things sometimes and then quits. Saturn is saying, how can I repeat this sense of well-being? Sagittarius is also sense of well-being. Sense of well-being is what attracts abundance. Sense of well-being. And how can I navigate, how can I repeat a behavior that attracts a sense of well-being, but the sense of well-being that you attract may not come in a regular way, because we have the 12th house. The 12th house is like, it's just basically rolling the dice. But attracting a sense of well-being, meaning cultivating the inner self to constantly be in a positive state, no matter what the 12th house throws at you, is what will ensure success. So it's about maintaining a stability of the inner self throughout the changeability of the moon. And there's kind of a square aspect to the moon. So it's something that, that we may struggle with, because there's so many planets in Pisces, there's going to be this huge tidal wave saying reality is like this, reality is like this is what is happening, this is what's real, but it's not real, because the South Node is saying that it's a devolution. It's pulling on all those planets. It's a devolution. You have to fight. You're going to have to fight Mars. Fight to maintain that discipline of a sense of well-being. And it could be a simple practice. Sagittarius is not about having all these complex structures. Sagittarius is about simplicity of the joy of being. So basically, through cultivating a discipline of joy, thinking a thought every day that makes you feel joyful, looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, doing something that makes you feel joyful, but making it a discipline, making it a practice, and not falling into the Piscean illusion of thinking that, indulging yourself is the practice of joy. It's like, because Saturn is in Sagittarius, you can't get away with it. You have to find a disciplined practice of joy that really has roots, that has roots deep in the earth. So anyway, you guys understand what I'm saying. This is basically the anchor of of all the dynamics of what's happening during this lunar eclipse. And so this is how to love yourself and to navigate through unconsciousness, because it's not going to be easy. You're going to be unconscious. It's going to be hard to be conscious. And the only thing that you really need to focus on, because the void is going to be there. The void is going to overwhelm you. The void that is Pisces, the void that is the 12th house, is going to overwhelm you. Your only true weapons are to cultivate a practice and a discipline of faith, and realizing that no matter what you do, it's going to turn out okay. You're going to be all right, and things are really working in your favor more than it appears to be. So just understand that and know that. So this has been Gold Diamond Astro Tea Magic with the moon message, 10 things to be mindful of during this lunar eclipse. And I will see you guys with the next moon message for the full moon report. All right, you guys, I love you. Peace.